In this video, I'm gonna be revealing the best wildlife photo edits in Lightroom so that you can take your wildlife photos and elevate those to pro level quality, all that coming up. Now, here's the photo that we're gonna be working with. As you can see, it's not great. It's fine, we got good lighting, everything is coming together, but the composition and the actual editing could make this a lot better. I'm gonna show you how to do that because I have a lot of these photos in my library. You might too. First thing I wanna do is work on the overall composition. So I'm gonna go to the crop tool. When I go to the crop tool, I'm just gonna bring this in down to just have it on the bird. Now I'm gonna move the bird over on this rule of thirds grid over to where the majority of the action of the bird is actually happening, just slightly to the right of that grid. Now, I like moving it just onto that side because you want areas to explore on the outside of the bird, but you don't want to put it too close to that bird. So I have it here. I also like my wildlife going from left to right because that's how we read in most languages. So we're used to moving from the action from left to right. So that's how I like to compose my wildlife in this as well. I'm gonna hit enter to do that. And automatically, if I look at the before and after, we have a better photo resulting from that. So what about the actual edit here? How can I improve my photography? I'll show you that right now. So if I bring up my exposure, I'm just trying to move that histogram closer to the midtones of this. And then I can increase my contrast to bring out a little bit more separation between my light tones and my dark tones. I'll show you how to further do that right now. So what I'm gonna do is increase my highlights a bit while zooming in on that actual section of the highlights versus shadows. And then I'm gonna drop the shadows a little bit too, increase my whites and drop my blacks a little bit as well. Lastly, I'll probably increase my clarity just a little bit to reveal a little bit more of that defined detail of these feathers, plus in the face too. Now, if you notice, a lot of these areas have a lot of this image noise going on and I could use some sharpening. I'll show you how to do that a little bit later in this video. So what I want to do next is increase my vibrance in here. A lot of people will tell you to increase your saturation. The problem here is we'll get to those single color saturations in just a little bit. But for overall visual of this photo, if you include too much saturation, it can actually make your photos look fake. So the vibrance is more of a subtle color that you're adding to the overall photo versus the saturation. So that's why I always use vibrance and not saturation at this stage. Now already I can see that my yellows are just a little bit too bright, but I can fix that right now. So for these saturation colors, I'm gonna scroll down to my HSL sliders, also known as hue, saturation, and luminance sliders. So if I come down here, I can first work with my hues. So for my yellows, I am seeing a little bit too much green in my yellows, so I'm gonna drop that yellow tone to more of an orange. And then for my blues, I'm going to fill that into more of a darker blue. Same with my aquas, move that towards kind of the purple or magenta color, just slightly. And then for my greens, any greens I have, I just want to move that towards the yellow portion of my photo here. And then orange, probably move that more towards the orange side of things, so about a -5. Now, anything I do in that, I want to mirror with my saturation and my luminance because those are the colors that I've now changed in this. I want to continue changing those, but edit those a little bit better using my next two sections. So anything that I edited up here, I'm gonna mirror down here. So increase my saturation, or maybe probably drop my oranges just a little bit because they're a little bit too bright. If you bring them up on this side, it just starts to look a little bit too fake. So I'll probably drop that to a realistic look here. I'll do the same with my yellows just a little bit. And then greens, remember, I did include greens in this photo, but I'm gonna drop that luminance as well. Now for blues, I'll probably bring up that saturation just to see what that looks like. And we've got a pretty good looking photo now. If I go to the before and after, you can see the difference here in the harshness of these colors like the yellows, and I've dropped those down, but I've added a lot more contrast to this photo on the right. If I keep going with this edit, I can further enhance that with my luminance sliders. So with luminance, what I'm going to do is lift my yellows just a little bit, oranges the same thing, but I'm going to drop my aquas and my blues because what I'm doing here with the luminance values is that's the brightness values of these colors. So if I increase the luminance of my yellows and decrease the luminance of my blues, I'm now creating more contrast by separating out those color tones so that I can get more detail into my photo. If I zoom in here, you can see how much detail I have from the bright yellows all the way to the dark blues, but I'm not overexposing those yellows or underexposing those blues. Now let's look at my sharpening here. As I told you, I have a lot of just noise going on. I photographed this at ISO of 640. The higher ISO you go, the more image noise you risk getting into your photos, but you can easily remove that now with the Lightroom denoise tool. If I just go to denoise in the noise enhance section, if I just go to about 20 on this, I have a lot better of a denoise on this. Let's bring it up to 30 just to see what that looks like. And I'm gonna scroll over here just on the feathers. It's remained a lot of sharpness on this, but it's removed that image noise. I'm just gonna go to enhance and apply that to my photo so that I can get a lot more detail in this. So there we go, a lot more detail, a lot more sharpness. If I just use this little window to kind of scroll around, you can see how much sharpness in this detail window that we've actually pulled out of this and remained very, very clean on the feathers and even on the face of the bird. Let's scroll down because there's a couple more edits that we need to make to really bring out the fine details and the small details that elevate your photos to the pro level quality. So if I scroll down, I want to bring as much attention to the bird as possible. I do that with vignetting. So I can bring in a vignette. If I drop that down, you see it darken those corners. That's gonna bring in a lot more attention on this actual bird right there. Now, lastly, I think eye connection is the most important part of a wildlife photo, because if you're just talking one-on-one with me and you, I'm gonna make eye contact with you to show you that there's that connection there. What you wanna do with wildlife photography is the same thing. If people have that eye connection with the wildlife, the photo means more and they feel a connection with that bird or animal. So if I zoom in on the bird's face, you can see it's pretty dark here. Now, our eyes are drawn to the brighter parts of a photo. So if I just brighten that up a little bit, you're gonna feel more connection to the actual bird. So if I scroll up here and go all the way to my masking tool, which is this little circle here, I can go to my brush tool, and I'm just going to start painting in areas of this bird's face that I want to be a little bit brighter. I might even get into right around the eye, right here, even into where it is bright right there. So what I'm gonna do is increase my exposure to a point where it doesn't look fake. So 0.15, increase that contrast some, increase the clarity on that as well. So if I come down here to my clarity, bring out a little bit more detail, you're just bringing out more detail in the actual color, the plumage of this. I'm gonna add another brush mask to this and just do the eye right here and bring out a little bit more exposure in the bird's actual eye. You see how that brightens it up and you get a little bit more of a pop of a color. Now, you don't want to go crazy with this and make it like completely fake, but if you drop this down just a little bit to where it's just glowing a little bit, you get a way better look of what this eye can look like. Again, contrast and clarity added to this to make that eye pop a little bit more. I'm gonna come down to close this, and then we can zoom out to see, okay, we've added a lot more detail here. Now, I do see in this that this first mask looks a little bit fake to me. So what I'm gonna do is actually bring that exposure back down to 0 and then close that out so we can just look at it again. Again, that looks fine to me. It looks like a great edit here. So what we've done here is we've brought out a lot more details, especially in the highlight section, the shadow section, and we've made a ton more interesting image in the face of the bird, which is what we're making our connection, that eye contact with. So following these steps is really gonna help you out. If you want more tips on using Lightroom, click or tap this playlist right here that's gonna help you out a ton.